One of my favorite albums of 2022 has to have been Prince Daddy and the Hyena's self-titled record. Ian Cohen summed it up really well in his Pitchfork review of the album when he said, "The Albany emo band takes a big swing with the concept album about the meaning of death, reimagining mall emo, alt-rock, and pop-punk with a theatrical flourish that all works surprisingly well." One of my favorite aspects about this album, and their music as a whole, is Corey Gregory's lyrics. He pays attention to creating a narrative while writing about deeply personal, sometimes hard to address topics. And with that, I present that Prince Daddy and the Hyena's self-titled album demonstrates a sort of comfort in chaos and urges the listener to become more comfortable through the unfathomable nature of humanity. Prince Daddy and the Hyena was formed by Corey Gregory, Zachariah Huchain, and Alexander Ziembic in 2014 after the three saw Roswell Kid live in concert. Prince Daddy and the Hyena started releasing music in 2014 with the release of an extended play titled Skip Cutscenes Blow Loud, a snarky reference to both weed and video games. In 2015, the band released another EP entitled Adult Summers following the delay of their debut I Thought You Didn't Even Like Leaving. The delay was due in large part due to issues at their record label, now defunct as of 2017, Broken World Media. Based out of Albany, New York State capital, Prince Daddy's Corey Gregory hosted concerts in his basement in the neighboring town of Cohoes. Corey hosted notable artists such as The Hotelier and Little Big League, the latter having been fronted by Japanese Breakfast lead and Crying in H Mart author Michelle Zauner. Albany, New York has been a home to a diverse DIY music scene since the early 80s. Bands like Wolfpack, One King Down, and The Disenchanted filled clubs, bars, and basements in their time. Its present scene is no different. After releasing their debut album, I Thought You Didn't Even Like Leaving, their lineup saw a shift, with drummer Alexander Ziembic stepping down and being replaced by Daniel Gorham. To quote an article from thehardtimes.net, the night before Albany-based band Prince Daddy and the Hyena was set to record their second album, Cosmic Thrill Seeker, somebody smashed a van window and stole all of their property. The damage accounted to nearly $7,500 and crushed their spirits before they could enter the next phase. In late 2018, the band got into a van crash in East Kentucky. This left their merch person Luis Weiss unable to work for 6 months, and frontman Corey Gregory was unable to walk for the following 2 months. After returning to the studio in 2019, all of this culminated in their second release, Cosmic Thrill Seekers. This took inspiration from albums like Titus Andronicus' The Monitor and My Chemical Romance's The Black Parade. The uncertainty caused by the constant switching lineups, record labels, robberies, and van crash that left them completely shocked led to this inevitable darkness leading up to 2022's album release. As Corey says in a 2022 interview following this album's release, "The crash itself was scary and painful in a literal sense, but it was mostly opening up a wormhole of feelings, of impermanence, I guess. It became an obsession after that." Today, I'd like to go over some of the aspects within the lyrics of their 2022 self-titled record and sort of think about the lyrics and relate them to the idea of leaning into intense discomfort as a means of coping with trauma. Adore the Sun is the first track on the album, and it's a synth-laden intro that Corey describes in an interview with Brooklyn Vegan as a mission statement for the rest of the album. Notably, the song sounds like nothing the band has ever tackled before, drenched in reverb and with sounds from Corey's modular synthesizer. Adore the Sun seems to speak of this sort of admiration and love for the world at large, but not necessarily the malaise that makes up much of the day-to-day. This is different, darker for Prince Daddy and the Hyena. Loss, fear, and death. Corey reckons with these thoughts on the track, but concludes potential avoidance of the issue as something more palatable, something more grounded for the group. Corey tries to give a voice to the more malleable and shapeless side of himself, something that he describes on 2017's Thrashville 1 out of 3. These thoughts intrude his psyche as the album begins, but as we begin to see in the next track, this adds a lot of chaos. A random exercise in impermanence, The Collector, is the lead single off of the album and feels very much like a traditional Prince Daddy track throughout its musicality, instrumentation, and lyrics. One major noticeable difference, however, is the use of through-composed lyrics. That is to say, lyrics composed without a chorus. This choice adds to the chaotic nature of the track and makes it feel like you're spiraling along with Corey, a sort of rabbit hole through his obsession about death following the 2018 car crash. I think one of the main points of the song is the non-linearity of life can cause unexpected, conflicting, and sometimes harmful and intrusive thoughts. The passenger, to me, represents the ambivalent side of Corey's psyche that is the most comforting yet uncomforting companion he seems to have at his aid.
The passenger almost died today, got his blood smeared across my face. They said that he might be okay, but he'll never be the same. Fought off the consequences of daily mangleless.
These are the opening lines of the song, and they represent that exact sort of discomfort to me. Fueled by thoughts of impermanence after their 2018 crash in Kentucky, Impermanence wrestles with these thoughts just about that, the nature of life, and what that random nature that is paid in the price of being alive creates. The Collector is mentioned multiple times throughout the song and remains a motif on the album throughout its duration. Another character warring with Corey's passenger. Simply put, the Collector represents death. Another crushing, if not the most crushing example of random exercises in impermanence, as the title alludes. Corey says it himself in an interview with Upset Magazine. We wanted the record to sound like the whiplash of a car crash. I think of our merch person and how much it's changed him and his psyche. Like, besides the actual van, he looked like he'd come up straight out of special effects for a horror movie. And seeing that scarred me. I was just looking at him, and I can't imagine what it would have been like to be him. That really taps into that fear about the impermanence of our physical body and how scary that is. He also goes on record explaining that the discomforting, or as he puts it, hard to organize nature of things affected the album's sound and creative direction. I think this song works as a brutalistic, nihilistic reminder of irrevocable truths. This urges the listener early on within the album to become comfortable when dealing with the uncomfortable. The lead single, entitled Curly Q, emphasizes this discomfort in more ways than one. But the most interesting and probably the most notable way of all is its instrumentation. It implies how different it just might be by noticeably being softer than any single song in the Prince Daddy discography. Corey references the emotion he feels watching his baby cousin adapt and grow up in this ever-changing world.
Worlds crumble pretty quick. You won't go down with it, I'm sure. Not with a heart like yours.
It's clear that Corey is presenting his fearfulness first and foremost. The pre-chorus states,
So you know you'll be within our glaze reach, and the sun will explode. You'll be burning underneath, and you'll find out when your whole family counts as company. Odds are likely you'll burn without me.
As upsetting and hard to swallow as it is, it just serves as another reminder of the album trying to succumb to the uncomfort of talking about mortality, anxiety, and simply just getting older. The song ends on a touching note, with the chorus somehow culminating on an even lighter note. A somewhat hopeful one. Worlds crumble pretty quick, you won't go down with it, I'm sure, not with a heart like yours. Corey hopes his cousin will overcome the hardships that the world will inevitably force him to face. It's nice, but it's a reminder that Corey himself has faced these hardships, and as a result of that, his anxiety fuels him further into much of what we see on this record. Going back to that interview with Brooklyn Vegan, Corey states, "There was something overwhelmingly dark and science fiction to me about a kid developing their first few memories and emotions during these past few years. I felt very defeated by my ability to develop a pessimistic outlook towards something as promising and supposedly beautiful at the beginning of life. This song is about those fears and the disapproval I have for them." That dark science fiction essence is noticeable in the rest of the project, with growls from synths making up much of the downtime we receive apart from the ear-crunching riffs. Curly Q is a break from that, but it may be the band's most devastating track to date. Overall, I think it's important that Prince Daddy puts so much thought and care into the words that they choose and the stories that they do decide to tell, because there are a rising number of cases of anxiety and stress in Gen Z, and it's important to give a voice through that discomfort. Their history emphasizes that their struggles have paid off, as their new project marks a partnership and record deal with Pure Noise Records, a notable alternative rock record label. One of the things I love about this album is that it excites me to see where the band is going to take it from here. That they have this totally unique sound and this unmatched raw energy. I'm excited to see where they go.